I know where you're coming from. Now, I want to ask you two questions. You were in a very big job,
Yeah.
Very popular, very, approachable, and you were doing content, you were doing business side, content side. So you're meeting stars day. Don't you miss the hustle and bustle of that? Do you miss it, first of all, or you don't miss it? I want to ask you that.
I must tell you a very small story. Can I? Do you have the time?
Yeah, we'd love to hear.
I've been through this many times. When I quit my Star TV job, okay, I've been through down. I was without a job for 9 months. I've seen what happened. Then I joined NDTV. Again, my life changed dramatically. Then I started ADM, and when ADM was going through a little bit of a turmoil, I seen what happened. And then I joined Colors, and everything changed. But I must tell you a story. Years ago, I traveled on a plane, and I told this story to many people many times, with a gentleman called Nitin Paranjpe. He was then the CEO of HUL. And we used to do a lot of business with HUL, but I had never, ever met him before that. So he was on a flight, and I was sitting on this seat in business class, and I saw him. I knew who he was because I recognized him. He didn't know who I was. And I was very excited because he was a big client. I walked up to him and I said, "Sir, my name is Raj Nayak." I gave him my card, and I said, "Glad to meet you." So he said, "Why don't you sit next to me?" And I said, it was an empty flight. So we were going to Goa. And he was going for the same, it was about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I don't know, Goa Fest, 14 years ago, whatever number of years then. And he was going to Goa Fest, he was a keynote speaker, and we got speaking, and he was wearing a uniform, he was wearing a HUL uniform. So I said, "You're going to Goa?" I was in my shorts and kids, and he was, I said, "You're wearing a uniform?" He said something very interesting. He said, "Sometimes office, I may not wear a uniform, but when I'm called to go somewhere to speak, I always wear this uniform because it is just to remind me that they are not calling Nitin Paranjpe. They are calling the CEO of HUL." And that stuck to my head, such a big thing. So when I joined Colors, the first thing I said, "Raj, it is not you, it is the chair." And I kept reminding myself, the chair. So I never built any emotional relationship with the chair. And if you visited me in my office, and Anurag, you have, I never sat on that chair. I always sat on a round table, and I had I never sat on the big chair because I said I don't want to get attached to it. So mentally, when I was quitting my job, I was very prepared. I said, yeah, that will be fine. But the relationships, the friends I have built, they will stay with you.
Raj,
they will stay with you.
Raj, the story which you mentioned, and I remember me coming to your office and you narrating me the same story.
Yeah, because it's something that stuck with me, and I live by it.
And that's very good of you. And that's very good of you.
Raj Nayak, irrespective of
yeah.
what you do and where you are. But Raj, just to build on it, you're right. And you told me something 15 years back, and in my book there is a chapter on it, and I've given the credit to you. You said to me 15 years back, "Anurag, संबंध है या सब बंद है?"
संबंध नहीं तो सब बंद।
हाँ, या तो संबंध है या सब बंद है। मैंने आपसे सीखा. So, I mean, it's not as directly applied, but if you have a relationship, then the doors are open. But if you do not have a relationship, then doors are closed.
That is true, na. That is true. Relationship is everything. Whether it is Donald Trump, wanting something from our country, or it is all about relationships. Half the thing in this world starts with relationship from the day you're born, whether it's with your parents, whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, mother, father, whoever it is, sister, friends. Relationships are the basis for anything in life.
Raj, let me get a young mind's perspective here, because both of you are certainly mature enough to understand. But when I talk from a young entrepreneur's perspective, and some people of my age, I mean, they treat these as two flips. At one side, you are talking about detaching yourself from your chair, and the other side, you are talking about maintaining relationships. It's a very fine balancing act, which takes years of maturity to master. So, do you think spirituality is something which young entrepreneurs should also look towards in these times?
I don't think spirituality. Let's not bring spirituality at all into this. It's just about you being mindful, saying that and I don't want to take names, if these are the people I interact with today and they pick up my phone call at one ring, you have to be mentally prepared that you really don't know, right? You don't know. You will only come to know when you vacate the chair. So you have to be mentally prepared that none of these people may pick up my phone call on the first ring or may not pick up my phone call at all. You have to be mentally prepared. And then if you have a 30% or 40% people who picked up your phone and have willing to maintain that same relationship with you, you're a very lucky man.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, sir. I was saying, we talk about gratitude. And I was telling my mother that, when I was 12 years old and my sister was 16 years old, my mother would tell us that, please thank God for the eyes, ears, limbs, that they're okay. And, I used to really, when I love my mother and, she's always right but I used to think, why does mom say this? I was telling her day before yesterday, that mom, you were so right. We take everything for granted. And these days I'm grateful for even a conversation, for food, for the ability to live under a roof. I just don't take anything for granted. I'm very grateful to people. Some things I might still. Second thing I was telling my mom is, my mom will always say, Pratna karo and Bhagwan se bolo subuddhi de. So I used to say, mom overdoes this. But these days I only ask God two things. Look after me and give me wisdom to take the right decisions. I don't ask, other things. We need to take right decisions. So I'm just saying, tell us about the top 3 philosophical lessons that you've learned and that you apply. Some of them you've already shared, but can you tell us some other things that you learned from your mother or learned in yours?
Can you see what I'm holding up here?
Yes.
Can you read?
Yeah. Yes.
So gratitude is a big thing.
Good day start with gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude is a big thing. If we have to first be grateful for what we have, think of how privileged we are, even when a lot of people out there don't have roof over their head, they don't have food to eat, they are struggling, they are far away from their families, they can't even go back home. And, I was reading yesterday somebody saying, oh, these migrant workers, why do they want to go back home at this time? And yeah, they are scared. They have no food. But more than that, they are scared. I know of people and friends who've flown in their children from UK and US and other countries back to India because they want their children, their family to be together. So how is a migrant laborer or anybody different? So first thing is we have to be very grateful that today we are sitting here and we have computers in our houses that we can do this call, we can do this interaction. So I think being grateful, I think, is one of the biggest things.
Counting your blessings, you saying?
Pardon?
Counting your blessings.
Count your blessings.
Yeah, count your blessings. And not only count them, name them one by one. Because then you will say, okay, you'll suddenly be able to count and see how many blessings you have. That is one. And I think this is the time when the world needs empathy. The world needs more authenticity. And I think it will come out in people. One of the things I genuinely believe that post-corona, at least I would like to believe, I'm a dreamer, as you know, okay? I would like to believe the world will be a better place. People will have more compassion, people will have more empathy, people will be a little more authentic, people will, I think, will start looking at life in a slightly different way than they did today. They will begin to value a lot of things which they didn't value in the past. In fact, somebody told me the other day, a very close colleague of mine, Namrata, who works with me, Namrata Tata, and she said, Raj, I just didn't realize after so many years, I've been having 3 meals with my family for a long time every day. And she said, it never even occurred to me in the past. But it's such a small little thing. But when you think about it, what a big thing it is.
Raj, I want to ask you, is that, while a lot of people come to you for advice, both as a leader and as a domain expert, who is the one go-to person or 2 go-to people that you go to advice for? These days, pick up the phone on. Of course, it depends on what you are seeking advice, but generally on life, generally on business.
Actually, right now I don't have anybody, but till about 3 years ago, yeah, it was my mother. You'd be surprised. She gave me, I mean, whether it was a business call, a personal call, anything, she was not very well educated, nothing, but the wisdom she had, she would give me the right advice. She would be my go-to person at that time. And that is something I tremendously miss today. But today what I do is, I go to domain experts in my own little way. Domain experts, not by paying them any money, but if I want to know something about legal, then I've got friends who are lawyers, probably I'll call them. So I just speak to people whom I know and I reach out. I don't hesitate in reaching out, and I don't hesitating in telling somebody, and that I used to do even when I was working as CEO of Viacom. I never, I used to tell my team, मुझे नहीं आता, मुझे को समझा दो. And I think there's no harm in saying I don't know. I want to learn. In fact, people will admire you for that, and people will go out of their way to teach you if you seek help. And one of the biggest thing is you have to reach out. Only if you ask, you will get. If you don't ask, you'll never get.